Are you being chosen or being settled for? There is a question every man deserves an honest answer to before he commits everything he has to another person. Not, does she like me? Not, is there chemistry? Not, does she say the right things? The real question is this: is she choosing you, or is she settling for you? And the painful truth that most men are never told clearly enough is that those two things can look identical from the outside. The same warmth, the same words, the same apparent investment, but they come from completely different places inside a person, and they produce completely different outcomes over time. My name is Mr. Wesley, and today we are talking about discernment, specifically the discernment to tell the difference between a woman who is genuinely choosing you, who sees who you are and wants specifically what you offer, and a woman who is responding to her circumstances, and you happen to be the most available option when her circumstances changed. This is not about bitterness. It is not about suspicion or treating every woman as a potential threat. It is about the kind of clear-eyed wisdom that protects a man from making the most expensive decision of his life based on a performance rather than a reality. Stay with me, because what I am about to describe is something most men feel intuitively, but never have the language to name clearly until it is already too late. Let me start with something most men have experienced but few have examined honestly. A man spends years being a good man, stable, reliable, genuine. He tries to connect with women who consistently seem uninterested or unavailable. He gets overlooked. He gets the "we are just friends" conversation. He gets the "I am not ready for anything serious" response from women who are very clearly ready for something serious, just not with him. And then something shifts. Suddenly the attention is different. Women who would not have returned his calls a few years earlier are enthusiastic and available and talking about wanting something real. And instead of asking what changed, instead of examining why the interest arrived when it did, most men are simply grateful. They receive the attention and interpret it as evidence that they finally became enough. But here is the question that changes everything. Did you change, or did her circumstances change? Because those two things are not the same. And a man who cannot tell the difference is a man who is about to build the foundation of his life on something that was never as solid as it appeared. Here is what genuine choosing actually looks like. A woman who is genuinely choosing you is not choosing you because her options narrowed. She is choosing you because of something specific to who you are, something that existed before her circumstances shifted, something she would have recognized and wanted regardless of what else was available to her. She is choosing your character, your direction, your specific way of seeing the world, the particular quality of how you make her feel when she is simply being herself around you. That choice does not carry urgency that has nothing to do with you. It does not come packaged with pressure that is fundamentally about her timeline rather than your connection. It does not require you to move at a speed that prevents you from seeing clearly before you commit. Genuine choosing is patient because it is confident. The woman who knows she wants you specifically does not need to rush you into commitment before you have had time to see who she actually is. She is not afraid of what time will reveal, because what time reveals is someone who is consistent, someone whose private self matches the public presentation, someone who was the same person before you were evaluating her as she is while you are. Here is what settling looks like, and why it is so easy to miss. Settling does not announce itself. Nobody sits across from you and says, "I am with you because my preferred options are no longer available. I am choosing you because the life I imagined for myself requires a partner, and you are the most acceptable option currently in front of me." It presents as genuine interest, as warmth and attention and apparent investment, as a woman who has finally figured out what she wants, and what she wants is exactly what you offer. But underneath it is something different. A relationship driven not primarily by genuine desire for you specifically, but by the need for something you represent, security, stability, partnership, the family she wants to build, the future she needs to secure before certain windows close. And here is what that produces over time that no amount of warmth in the beginning can prevent. She knows, even if she never says it, even if she convinces herself it is not true. Somewhere underneath the relationship she knows she's settled, and that knowledge, quiet and unacknowledged as it might be, creates something that gradually poisons everything it touches, a resentment that has no clean target, a dissatisfaction that cannot be addressed directly because addressing it would require admitting what it is rooted in, a comparison that runs quietly in the background, a sense that the life she is living is adjacent to the life she actually wanted. And eventually that resentment finds an exit, through criticism, through emotional withdrawal, through the subtle daily communication that you are slightly less than what she deserved, not because you are less than anything, but because you were never what she was actually choosing. So how does a man see this clearly before it costs him everything? There are 5 things to observe, and observing them honestly, without the filter of what you want to be true, is the most important investment you can make before you commit. The first thing to observe is when and why her priorities shifted. A woman who has genuinely arrived at a place of readiness for real commitment did not arrive there because her circumstances changed. She arrived there because something inside her changed, because she did the honest internal work of examining what she actually wants from her life and why she was making the choices she was making. That internal shift produces a different quality of energy than the urgency that comes from biological or circumstantial pressure. It is quieter, more settled, less frantic. Pay attention to the timeline. Did her interest in what you offer arrive gradually through genuine knowing you, or did it arrive quickly, packaged with urgency and pressure, in a way that feels more like a decision being made against a deadline than a relationship being built between 2 people? Urgency that is about her timeline rather than your connection is information. Receive it as such. The second thing to observe is accountability. How does she talk about her past? Not what happened to her. What did she choose? What does she own? What does she understand now about her own patterns and decisions that she did not understand before? A woman who has genuinely grown takes full responsibility for her choices without making herself a victim of them. She can talk about her past with honesty and clarity and genuine ownership. She does not require your sympathy for her history. She does not need you to validate her narrative about why things went the way they went. A woman who is performing growth rather than embodying it will blame. She will frame herself as someone things happen to rather than someone who made choices. She will have a victim narrative that is designed, consciously or not, to preempt your honest assessment of what her history actually reveals. Accountability without victimhood is one of the strongest indicators of genuine change. Look for it, and look for its absence. The third thing to observe is consistency. What she presents to you when she knows she is being evaluated, and what she actually is when the evaluation pressure is lower. Are those the same person? Does she maintain the same values and behaviors when she is with her friends as when she is with you? Does her history reflect the priorities she is expressing now? Does the private version of her match the version she has presented? Consistency is the language of authenticity. Performance requires effort to maintain, and performance under sustained observation over time almost always shows its seams. Give it time, not to test her cynically, but because time is genuinely the only thing that reveals what is actually there, rather than what is being presented. The fourth thing to observe is her response to your pace. A woman who is genuinely choosing you is comfortable moving at a pace that allows both of you to see each other clearly before making irreversible decisions. She is not threatened by the time it takes to know someone well. She does not need you to commit before the relationship has had room to demonstrate what it actually is. A woman who is responding to pressure, biological, social, circumstantial, will create urgency around your pace, She will manufacture consequences for moving at a reasonable speed. She will reframe your desire to know her properly as a character flaw in you. She will escalate the stakes of slowing down to make staying at your own pace feel more costly than accelerating. That pressure is information about what is driving her interest. Receive it clearly. The fifth thing to observe is how she sees you. Not what she says about you, how she actually sees you. Whether there is genuine respect and admiration for who you are specifically, or whether she is relating to what you represent. The woman who genuinely chose you will express appreciation for things specific to you. The way you think, the way you handle difficulty, the particular quality of your character that she encountered and recognized and wanted to keep encountering. The woman who settled for you will sometimes speak about you in ways that carry a faint but detectable note of disappointment, of comparison, of relating to you as a category of man, rather than as the specific irreplaceable individual you are. Pay attention to that note. It is quiet, but it is telling. Now let me say something directly to the man who is reading this and recognizing himself in it. If you have been asking yourself whether you are being genuinely chosen or whether you are someone's best available option, that question deserves an honest answer, not the answer you want, the answer that is actually there when you look clearly, because you deserve to be chosen, not settled for, not selected as the most acceptable available option when better alternatives disappeared. Not picked because you represent a solution to a problem she created. You deserve to be chosen by someone who sees you specifically, who wanted you before the pressure arrived, who is still choosing you on the days when the relationship is hard and staying requires something from her. That is not a fantasy standard. It is the minimum that any man's genuine commitment deserves in return. And here is the part that most content on this topic never gets to. The discernment to see this clearly is not just about protecting yourself from the wrong person. It is about becoming the kind of man who the right person would genuinely choose. Because a woman who is genuinely choosing, not settling, not positioning, not responding to panic, is choosing based on something real in the man in front of her. His character, his direction, his groundedness, his genuine wholeness that communicates he does not need her to be complete. Becoming that man is the work that makes genuine choosing possible. Not the chase, not the performance, not the version of yourself that you construct to be maximally appealing. The actual you, built on something real, anchored in something that does not shift based on who is watching. That man gets chosen by someone who was actually choosing. And that relationship, built on truth rather than strategy, on genuine desire rather than circumstantial necessity, is the only kind worth building your life around. If this spoke to something in you today, share it. Drop a comment below. Have you ever felt the difference between being genuinely chosen and being settled for? Tell me honestly. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one. This is Mr. Wesley.